Welcome back to Lost for Words with Lori. It is Tuesday, the 6th of December. Wow. Can you believe it's December already and Christmas is like upon us? I mean, holy crap. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So I hope everybody is doing well. It's been a hot minute since I've dropped anything here for you to listen to. I did do a live the other day, which was totally impromptu, non-expected, and had a really good time with everybody who participated in that. So I thank everybody who dropped in and showed support. And listened to all of us talk. We're all over the place and whatnot. Kind of started out as just a conversation with a friend, and we decided we would talk about it live and see if other people wanted to have discussions as well. I also wanted to thank everybody who participated in the poll that I did about what topics you wanted to hear about. And I am taking all of that into consideration, of course, for future topics to talk about and whatnot as we keep rolling on with all of this, journey that we're all taking together. So I think, the last podcast I did, we talked about surviving Thanksgiving, and we talked a lot about the holidays and family dynamics and coping with those kinds of things. And, as I work through my stuff and, I have therapy every 2 to 3 weeks with my therapist as we work on grief counseling and just life in general. We talk about setting goals, and what I wanted to kind of go over a little bit today, and I don't want to drag on too terribly long, is about realistic expectations and setting goals, about being realistic about what your goals are. And I think one of the reasons why I wanted to cover this is because, of the disappointment. I think that's the emotion that has been kind of in the forefront lately, is just a great deal of disappointment. And when you unwrap disappointment in general, it's because I think you have unrealistic expectations about either your goals or about other people or about what you can accomplish or what other people are supposed to be doing. And I think that's where we all become disappointed when we have an expectation that something is going to be a certain way and it doesn't happen the way that you expected. And I know for me personally, I try to be pretty transparent about what my expectations are with people because I don't want to either be disappointed, or I don't want other people to be disappointed because they have expectations that either aren't communicated, or they think and have conversations in their head without communicating what those things are. And they have expectations about the way people are supposed to react or think or feel or treat you when you haven't been very clear or communicated clearly the way that you want people to react or what your needs are. So that's been kind of a huge thing in the forefront as you work through family dynamic, as you work through, for me, grief therapy, as you work through friendships and conflict resolution, is the communication piece is missing from a lot of people. And they don't communicate clearly what their needs are or what it is that their expectations are. And a lot of times they become very disenchanted and very disappointed when they don't get the result from whatever it is that they had expected. And it's really difficult to express to people whose mindset is, well, people need to read my mind, or they should know better, and change the perception to people don't pay attention to my thoughts. They don't know how to read my mind. They don't know what my expectations are. But yet they'll still be hurt or have feelings about things when they've never communicated that that's what they needed. And I get saddened and I get frustrated when I see people continuously basically disappointing themselves. You know, if you have goals, which most people do, the goals need to be realistic, not so far-fetched, or not the expectation that it's going to happen instantaneously or overnight, and then become disappointed when those things don't happen. Because I see that happening in a lot of places, especially on the social media and in Talk Successful world. People have that goal of, whatever, views or subs or whatever it is that they want to achieve. But the unrealistic expectation that it's going to happen in a certain time frame, or, they're really proud of something they've done, but it's not resonating with other people. But they have an expectation that people are just going to do things or react a certain way, when you're not clear about what your expectation is. And again, when it comes to being realistic about those things, I mean, not everybody is going to find success on a social media platform. It comes back down to the goals and what it is that your mission is, and why you started doing what you do in the first place, whether it's a personal business, whether you're selling crafts, whether you're, doing videos, whether you're trying to start up a business. Even in your first world, if you have realistic goals and timeframes and a set idea of when is the right time to do certain things, you can stay level, you can find balance, you can create a realistic expectation of what you should accomplish, based on how's it been going so far. That's why we look at analytics. That's why we look at those things, if that's what your goal is. For me, it's really just being aware that you should have goals and make them achievable, and not set the standard too unrealistically high. Kind of like, your mouth writing checks that your ass can't cash. I mean, a lot of people have some really lofty goals, and that's okay. But you need to be realistic about it, and at the same time, be humble. It's never any fun to see somebody tooting their own horn consistently about their achievements, and then smashing other people when they have maybe the same expectation or the same goals. But comparing yourself to other people is kind of an unrealistic expectation, because not everybody has the ability to achieve the things that you do at any given time. And that could be for personal reasons, it could be for physical reasons, mental reasons, financial reasons, it could be for any reason. But you have to have a realistic expectation of what you can accomplish based on what your circumstances are. And if you're really arrogant about what you're achieving, that comes off and leaves a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Excuse me. So I think staying humble is the key, and not getting above yourself. It's good to pat yourself on the back, be proud of your accomplishments, but always remember that your expectations are what you make them, and they should be realistic and not way too unreachable. Because if you have those expectations and you don't reach them, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment, and you're setting yourself up for failure in a lot of ways, unless you are realistic about what you have the means to achieve. In my social media platform, I don't have any expectations, and therefore there are no disappointments. Everything that I achieve here is wonderful. Any one sub, any one view, any one person that pays attention to what I do and cares about what I think, to me is an achievement. And I don't have expectations of, well, I need to hit this number by this time or this date. I just go back and look at the historical facts of, here's where I was a year ago, here's where I am now, and be proud of what I've accomplished so far. Because for me, I had no expectations when I started this. It was, let's give it a try, sink or swim. And I'm pretty pleased with my progress and with my success. But again, I did this for me. I didn't do it for fame, fortune, and glory. I didn't do it for money. I didn't do it for clout. I didn't do it for those things. I was trying to be on my journey to share everything to make, the best version of me. And hopefully other people would learn from that as well. So, I think as long as we're continuing to establish solid boundaries with the people that we communicate with, whether it's in your first world or in the social medias and on the internet, having those clear expectations and being very transparent about them and brutally honest in most cases, at least for me, you don't have to be, crass or be rude about it. But the transparency that I've given has said, if you want an honest opinion, you know that you can get that from me. And I've been nothing but transparent about that. But to me, that's a solid boundary. It's a clear expectation that anybody who gets to know me or comes in contact with me will understand that I'm going to tell them the truth and not just blow smoke up their ass and tell them what they want to hear. And therefore, there's really no disappointment there. And again, if you're able to communicate clearly with those boundaries and expectations, then people's relationships tend to be stronger, more authentic and genuine. And there isn't scorekeeping. There isn't the expectation that, well, if, I do this for you, then you have to do that for me, which happens a lot because people don't have consequences for their behavior on the social media. But right now, working on just acceptance, which is a big part of a realistic expectation. When you talk about my personal grief journey and what I'm working on, and that's one of the hardest things that I struggle with is acceptance, being okay with how I feel and just saying it is what it is. I don't need to act. There is no reaction necessary. And that way I'm not disappointed. I'm not disappointed in the expectation that time isn't fluid and I'm not just going to get over it, and I need to be self-aware and have a pretty clear expectation of what my journey looks like. And I'm setting goals. I'm setting realistic goals about how I want to choose to live my life. And part of that is accepting what I don't have control over, and just understanding that time is fluid and it's going to take time, and I'm going to need to work those things out. And that way I'm not disappointed when emotions visit me and I'm struggling, that I don't fight myself with negative self-talk about, well, you should be further along than this. That's not a realistic expectation. Everybody handles pain and grief and sorrow differently, and that's just a fact. So I hope people understand what I'm trying to get at with setting boundaries, setting realistic expectations, and essentially just communicating with each other openly, authentically, brutally honest if you need to, and make sure that once you do those things, that you follow through and you're consistent. Because if you keep changing your mind or you allow people to stomp all over your boundaries, or if you're not communicating your expectations and then throwing a tantrum because you feel a certain way, maybe take a look at whether or not you were clear and concise about what it is that you needed. And you might find that you're much less disappointed with the people around you and even with yourself, because you understood that you set goals that were achievable and you have future goals, but you've communicated them with the best of intentions. So I hope everybody has a wonderful week. I've got lots of cool stuff coming up for work and for fellowship with my friends, and just kind of getting ready for Yule, for the solstice, and just keeping it moving, right? one day at a time. That's my philosophy. That's the goals that I have, is to simplify my expectations to only live one day at a time. But have a great week. I will talk to you all soon. Just know that I love you. Wash your fucking hands and be a good human. See you next time.